Good morning, everybody. I hope you are well. Welcome to the Liquid Friday webinar relating to protecting your business regarding the current furlough scheme in the current COVID-19 situation that is a challenging one for all the current moment. So before we get going, I just wanted to say that I hope everybody is keeping safe and well. Looking forward to running through with you some of our current thoughts on what we've been up to from a Liquid Friday perspective regarding furlough. Without much further ado, I'd like to kind of crack on and welcome you to the session. Just before we get going, just one or two kind of house rules for the duration of the session. Everybody's microphone is currently muted. Please do feel free to ask any questions that you have throughout this session using the chat button, and then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, where hopefully we'll be able to get through answering everybody's questions. But if you do still have anything that was a burning subject that you wanted to ask after the event, please do forward them into the team, and either myself or a member of the team will come back to you with the responses on those. So just a quick introduction. My name is Colin Gunnell. I'm the CEO of Liquid Friday. If you don't know us already, that we've been going since 2006. Primarily specializing in the support of umbrella, PAYE and CIS services. We've tried to be on the front foot all the way through this current crisis to be able to support our clients and colleagues, and hopefully look forward to sharing some of that information with you now. So as a very quick update from a Liquid Friday perspective, I'm very happy to say that it's business as usual with Liquid Friday currently, whatever this kind of new usual is for everybody. When the lockdown was announced, the team and I were able to transition to working remotely within about 24 hours. And we would just like to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you to the team, as they've been absolutely brilliant during the challenging weeks. They've still been able to help lots and lots of people, taking lots and lots of calls from contractors and from clients alike around what's going on at the moment. Yeah, I think they've weathered the storm really, really well. Also during this time, we've launched an initiative to support key workers during this crisis, but a little bit more about that as we move through the presentation. So today's agenda is going to be pretty focused. We're going to be looking specifically at the CJRS, the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme, what that means for recruitment agencies as well as contractors, some thoughts and some considerations around cash flow, and then moving on to that Q&A session that we mentioned earlier. So, moving forward with the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme, the CJRS, it's been pretty well documented over the last couple of weeks. The aim of the scheme is to let employers retain employees so that businesses can bounce back a little quicker when this horrible pandemic starts to ease. And under the scheme, employers can choose to furlough their employees, effectively putting their jobs on hold until things get back to normal. Or another way to consider it is effectively allowing individuals to remain employed, but being stood down for a period of time, so they can retain their status and still receive a payment from government rather than that payment for salary or wages coming directly from the employing business. The CJRS is available to any employee who is on payroll currently as from the 19th of March 2020, and importantly was reported to HMRC as an employee by that date. Or another way of thinking about it was actually making sure there was an RTI submission for PAYE for an individual on or prior to the 19th of March 2020. The government has stated it will provide employers a grant to cover 80% of the employee's regular wage, which is capped out at an amount of £2,500 gross per month. The related employer's national insurance contributions and minimum auto-enrollment pension contributions on that wage as well. So these are the two elements of the grant that can be claimed by an employer. But it's also important to note that the grant does, from CJRS does not cover the apprenticeship levy. So there is still some employment costs that sit with the scheme, but it is the smaller one at 0.5% that isn't currently claimable under the scheme. So what this means in a little more context is if we look at some worked examples here, we can have a quick run through example one, whereby we're saying that we have Eric, who has a gross salary of £24,000 per year, so equates to £2,000 per month. The available grant under the CJRS is going to be the lower of 80% of that monthly wage, which in this case would be £1,600 or £2,500. So we know the lower of those two is going to be £2,000. So therefore 80% of that £2,000 is the £1,600 that could be claimable under the grant. So £1,600 would be claimable as wages for the employee, plus the employer's national insurance contribution costs of £121. Okay, so the total claim for our example one that an employer would be submitting would be £1,721. So this is an example whereby everything is within the caps. The cap hasn't come through. If we look at example two, well, we have Kerry, who's on a gross salary of £39,000 a year, or £3,250 per month. The available grant under CJRS will again be the lower of the 3,250 or the 2,500. So in this case, the lower amount is the 2,500. So £2,500 would be able to be claimable under the grant under CJRS, plus the employer's national insurance costs of £246, leaving us with a total grant amount for our example two of £2,746. For those of you that have been keeping up to date with the scheme and the ever-changing landscape of it, there have been some changes. Significantly, one of the biggest changes was the original payroll cutoff date, which was initially promoted by Rishi Sunak as the 28th of February. But it was later moved to the 19th of March to allow benefit to more workers. The government has also extended the scheme by 1 month up to the end of June. Originally it was up to the end of May, but it has been extended to the end of June. And that's been done in order to prevent businesses from having to initiate redundancy consultations with furloughed employees. So it's actually been able to operate within a larger time scale to make it more appropriate for business. There has also been some focus and some further clarification on public sector workers. The guidance states that although employers in all sectors, so regardless of niche, all sectors can apply for the job retention scheme, the government expects that most public sector employees, however, will not need to be furloughed. Either because they're working on essential services or because fundamentally it's public funding that's covering the staff cost. The Cabinet Office has also stated verbally that temporary labour in the public sector should continue to be paid. So flexible workforces, contracting workforces in the public sector should continue to be engaged throughout this pandemic crisis. When it comes to actually claiming under the CJRS, HMRC's portal to administer the scheme actually opened on the 20th of April, a little earlier than was originally kind of planned. When the government first announced it, their intention was to get it up and running by the end of April, so they got it there 10 days early. And to access the portal, you will need your government gateway user ID and password. related to your PAYE scheme online. And before you start the process, you will need to check that both you and your furloughed employees are eligible to be able to use the scheme, and therefore how much you will be able to claim. Thus far, I'm hearing some pretty positive things about the use of the portal. There hasn't been any fallovers or issues with it, and it seems to be able to handle the pretty considerable volume that's being placed through the portal as it stands at the moment. So once you have those administrative pieces in play in order to be able to make a claim, and you've understood that you have entered into a furlough arrangement with your employees, and you've calculated the relevant 80% of what is able to be claimable under the grant, you will need certain things when actually submitting that claim to HMRC. Those areas that you're going to need are going to be your employer PAYE scheme reference number, obviously your bank account number and sort code, and also in order for the grant to be paid to you, the number of employees being being furloughed, and importantly, each employee's national insurance number. So HMRC certainly looks like they're going to be using RTI to track all furlough payments from employees that are receiving payments under the grant now, and being able to track that through RTI when they're out of furlough and back to standard employment wages. We will also need to provide each employee's payroll or employee number, the start and end date of the particular claim. So could be the month of March, could be the month of April. The full amount you are claiming, including the employment cost element as well, and your contact details. Now, importantly, when you're collating this information, if you are claiming for more than 100 furlough employees at a particular time, you'll need to upload this information in the normal specified format of CSV or .xls, which does actually make it a little bit easier to be able to get that information up into the portal. So that's effectively all of the areas that you're going to have to collate and have to hand after doing the calculation for the relevant payments under furlough. There is some support that we can provide in this area to assist you. So making a large number of claims and doing those calculations and understanding, especially if there are non-standardized wages, so there's flexible wages that are involved, and actually understanding what pro rata elements are being used and what are not being used. That is some areas that we have been supporting some of our agency clients with, and we're more than happy to offer that out to more individuals. If you'd like any assistance regarding the calculations of furlough payments and the processing of, please do feel free to get in touch, and either myself or a member of the operations team will be in touch to discuss further. So when it comes to furloughing umbrella workers, the FCSA, of which we are an accredited member of, in combination with other leading professional bodies, have been lobbying hard for clarification about how the wages of umbrella employees are to be calculated under the job retention scheme. And there's been ongoing dialogue pretty much since the announcement. The latest guidance, which was updated on the 9th of April, does make it absolutely clear that the scheme is open to all employers, including umbrella companies, who are employing workers and paying them PAYE. So it's really important to clarify that the scheme can be used by an umbrella company if they are engaged on a full PAYE system. This being said, there are still quite a few questions around the mechanics of the scheme, in particular whether furlough pay should be calculated on an average of all earnings or just the basic element of national minimum wage. And Liquid Friday, as well as other members of the FCSA and other kind of industry groups, have been pushing hard on this clarification. And we are still waiting for further clarification on this. However, there could be a reality whereby that clarification never actually comes. I think it would be fair to say that when the Chancellor and the Treasury were looking at putting together a scheme like this, which is a great conceptual scheme to put in play to support people, that the deployment or the use of the scheme via umbrella companies or potentially agency workers as well probably wasn't in the foremost thoughts. However, as employers, we are actually able to use the scheme, but we have had to consider how we use it in regards to the rules that have been provided. What this has led us to thought is that we have made the kind of commercial, and whether we wanted to call it an ethical or a moral decision, to actually base the calculation of furlough payments to Liquid Friday employees using the usual taxable monthly wage. Our thoughts are it's clear what the scheme is intending to do. So we are utilising that when it comes to the engagement of contracted employees. So there's not a disruption or a financial disadvantage to themselves. At an early stage, we started working to identify those individuals that would be potentially eligible under the job retention scheme based on their assignments being interrupted by COVID-19. We have also calculated and processed furlough payments for the March period to all entitled employees, and we will repeat this process on a monthly basis for the duration of the scheme. One area that I've personally had a lot of questions about, and I know the rest of the team has as well, is regarding the use of limited company contractors, PSE contractors, and can they furlough? Can a single company director actually furlough themselves? And it has prompted an awful lot of questions. And it's our understanding that limited company directors who provide their services through PSCs, even if they are the only employee, can still furlough the PAYE element of their income. Or in other words, get 80% of a salary up to £2,500 a month, which again could be backdated to the 1st of March 2020. Again, they will only qualify if their contract is paused or terminated because of COVID-19, and they must have had a PAYE scheme in place and operational prior to the 28th of February. Importantly, if a PSC contractor chooses to furlough themselves under the CJRS, they can't technically work for the company other than to perform their statutory obligations as directors. So all of the statutory obligations, such as filing accounts or submitting VAT returns or working with HMRC, can still be performed. However, like any furloughed individual, they cannot perform any work for that company, which would mean they could not seek work finding opportunities on behalf of that company. They could not keep in touch with clients, they could not maintain marketing, they could not think about doing any sort of new business development. They would have to effectively have been stood down from their own work, from their own job. And it would only be when they are taking out of furlough, when they release themselves from furlough, that they can start performing those duties and those activities again. On the subject of PSE contractors, it's also important to clarify, because there has been some confusion around this point, around how much grant would actually be relevant for claim from a PSE director. And it's quite common for a lot of directors of limited companies that are contractors to effectively set themselves a salary of somewhere between £10,000 and £12,000 a year. Now, that salary element will be the element that we will be basing our thoughts on the 80% claim for furlough, because that's the amount of salary that's been submitted through that business under its RTI. If a PSA director has been making use of things like dividends, then they are not taking into consideration for the calculation of furlough payments under the grant. It is a bit of an interesting subject, this one. So if you would like any further information, if you've got any questions about it, do feel free to kind of ping anything through, or pick it up with myself or a member of the team afterwards. As mentioned, we've been trying to do our very, very small little bit when it comes to supporting key workers. We have been and will be continuing through the duration of this horrible situation that we're in at the moment, to be supporting key workers, especially in health and social care, at zero margin for any services. It's not a lot, but it's just something that we're trying to do, and what we can do in this time to try and support what's going on at the moment. If you would like kind of further information about this, again, please do feel free to get in touch, and a member of the team would be more than happy to provide you with more information. One area that is worth taking into consideration, which comes into kind of furlough payments, and I guess the larger cash flow considerations that the current climate has maybe forced all of us to consider a little more, is that we've seen many businesses become increasingly impacted by coronavirus and finding themselves that cash is potentially taking a little longer to work its way through its supply chain. We have seen some end clients trying to shore up certain kind of cash reserves, or even potentially going as far as to reaching out to their recruitment agencies by saying that they're not going to be paying for a period of time. As a group, we do have some initiatives that we can support you with that may be appropriate. And importantly, we are looking forward very much to such times when we can start getting back to normal, although we understand we may be in a new normal for a period of time once restrictions start to be lifted. At that time, our account managers, business development managers and commercial directors will be keen to get back on the road and support you in any way, shape we can. And it may be that outside the normal support of umbrella services, that some of our cash flow initiatives and products may be of interest. So within our group at the moment, we have two distinct offerings. We have Liquid Link, which is our smart and a tech-based approach to traditional invoice financing, where we can actually provide a total solution for the engagement and deployment of a workforce, and also take care of the financing of that workforce. Recently we added Penny as an offering as well, which is an innovative payment platform that allows agencies to pay PSE contractors, limited company contractors, on 28-day payment terms, whilst those contractors still get paid the same day they submit their timesheet. So it can act as a payment platform to allow the release of cash flow into the business, because there's no longer there's additional credit terms effectively provided when engaging with limited company contractors. The platform has zero cost to agencies. So if you would like any further information about that, please again reach out to either myself or a member of the team, and we'd be delighted to give you some more information about those initiatives, if they would be of help or a value in supporting kind of cash flow at this particular time. So that kind of leads us to the end of the areas of kind of furlough, what we've been doing regarding our own business in regarding the supporting of furloughing individuals and some of the latest guidance of what's actually happening in regards to the rules of the deployment of furlough. I'm actually going to bring our group head of operations, Joe Taffarelli, into the session now, as I believe we've had some questions that have come in during the session, and we'd like to answer those for you now. And indeed, if you still have any questions as we go along, please do feel free to carry on popping them in. And if we can't get through to all of them this morning, we will be able to follow up along with a copy of this this presentation. So, Joe, have we had any questions come in thus far?
Yeah, hope everyone can hear me okay. So yeah, we've got a sort of half a dozen or so. Before I do that, just want to obviously once again echo what Colin said and thank the whole team, because we've, you know, to get the office up and running within 24 hours with no interruption in service was pretty good, and we've been able to continue supporting all of you guys, which is the most important thing. The first question I've had is whether Liquid Friday we're making furlough payments on national minimum wage / living wage, or on the full payment amount. So that's already been covered off, but just to really put some meat on the bones about that, yes, we are going to be doing it on the average earnings of the contractor, not just the national minimum wage element of the pay. There's lots of reasons why we're doing that. Colin's obviously covered, you know, the ethical reasons, and I think, you know, we all like sleeping at night and want to do the right thing. But on top of that, we have obviously taken legal advice, and the way that we construct our contracts and our payments, we have the option and the ability to do that. So that's why we have done that. So I can confirm that yes, they're being paid on the average of their total taxable earnings. Next question was, when will furloughed workers start receiving payments? We have already sent out pay slips for the March element of the pay. So we're, as you guys know, HMRC are only allowing you to put a claim in every 3 weeks. So what we're doing is sort of staging that. So we've just done March. That should start hitting accounts next week. So we're waiting for HMRC. HMRC have asked for 6 days to assess your first claim. So we put ours in last week. So we are now in that period where we're waiting for them to assess that, and then we will be able to issue payments. We're expecting it to be in accounts by the 1st of May. And then as soon as we can put in April's, which will probably be in the following week, we'll then pay that out a lot quicker to start speeding up the whole process. But they will be paid monthly in arrears, basically. Another popular question is, does holiday pay accrue whilst on furlough? Yes, in our understanding is holiday pay does accrue. Liquid Friday is going to continue to accrue holiday pay for its Liquid Friday workers that are furloughed. So the answer for that one is quite simple, yes. Can the agencies make additional payments to top up the payment to create 100% wage for the worker? So this is really where obviously we can claim the 80%. This is the additional 20%. The answer is yes, we can increase it to 100% of their pay. However, it's quite complex. So what I would say on that is, you will definitely, if you wish to do that, you will definitely need to contact either someone like myself, your account manager, who will then put you in contact with the head of payroll, and we'll talk about that one-on-one, because Liquid Friday has to be involved in that process. It will be us that's actually making the 100% payment. So we need to discuss the logistics on that. Next question was, what notice does Liquid Friday need to make a furlough payment to a worker? In theory, none. We don't need to give any notice on this one. It's not a layoff, so those rules don't apply. But what we are doing in reality is there is a 3-week period where you need to be furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks to be entitled to our scheme. So we are actually reaching out and we are contacting workers. So we are actually contacting them to say they are entitled, and then asking them to go through the furlough process with us if they wish to. The next question was, what pressures are the FCSA applying RE holiday pay versus payment with no onward billing? Bit of a complex question, that one, not a really easy one for me to answer. The FCSA has been really applying quite substantial pressure on government and the Treasury to understand this matter of holiday pay. On the current guidance, all we can say is that we agree that holiday pay does accrue, but you might want to watch this space because there is a line in the guidance that does state that the holiday pay is under constant review. They wouldn't put that in there for no reason. So we are always going to keep an eye on that. But at the moment, we understand that holiday pay does accrue, and we're definitely following that guidance. Okay, we've had some questions through on the chat whilst I've been talking. So we've got, can you confirm if the contractors due to be paid furlough pay are paid weekly or monthly? So yeah, I've just covered that off. They will be paid monthly in arrears. That's because HMRC only allow you to put a claim in every 3 weeks. So we couldn't put in a weekly claim, which means we couldn't really offer with hand on heart, we couldn't offer a weekly payment service. All of those that are currently being furloughed, which for Liquid Friday we've contacted around about 650 to 700 workers already. They have already been told that in all stages of the communication that the payment is not going to fall within a weekly payment cycle, and they are being informed of the payment cycle as we make them. So yeah, another question here. You mentioned the payments have been made. Just to confirm, that pay period, that was for March. So that was for people that haven't worked over the March period. We're about to do the April, and then we'll roll on and we'll do May as and when we go. Another question about will a zero margin be for all workers or only those in healthcare? The scheme is really designed for and there for healthcare. So we do make this quite clear. Liquid Friday is sort of quite large in the healthcare sector. That's why we did it. Although please speak to your account managers if you think that you've got a set of workers that would benefit, and they'll be able to advise you. I've mentioned that you've already made March applications. How are we approaching the shortfall? Only on 80% holiday payment can be claimed back from HMRC. So we are handling the holiday pay accrual ourselves. So yes, you cannot claim it back from HMRC. It's not part of, like apprenticeship levy, we're having to pay that as well. These are not payments that we can claim. Is any more questions at all?
No, that seems to be everything for now. Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate that. So I guess that kind of concludes where we this particular session. If you guys or anybody does have any further questions that they would like to ask us the event, please.
We've just got a couple more come through. If you don't mind me answering them, Carl.
Not a problem at all.
No worries.
Happy to help.
Jason, yeah, we are paying the, yeah, so we're their employer, so we will be giving them their accrual. So it's a holiday accrual, so the holiday pay element, we're not paying that out as they accrue it like on an advance basis. We will be retaining and building up their holiday allowance for when this period is over. The reason why we do that is because you can't be on holiday and be on furlough. So if we paid out holiday pay, i.e. we put them on holiday whilst they're on furlough, it would actually physically stop the furlough process, and the 3 weeks sort of waiting period as such would restart. So the holiday accrual is being held back for when we return to normal, whatever that is. And the March cut-off date was last Friday. So so what we did is we've worked with people over April. So to take them up until, and they had until Friday the 24th of April to complete their furlough process, and basically to enable us to be able to get into the grant at the end of the week. So we're waiting now for that, but it is sort of from the 1st of March until the 31st of March, or for that period. Well, in theory, the 2nd of March, because that's the Monday. Cool. Sorry, Colin, I'll let you carry on.
Not a problem at all. It's good to get everything answered. So yes, thank you for everybody for joining us this morning. I hope some of that has been kind of helpful in either answering questions that you have specifically around what we are doing as Liquid Friday, or some more guidance about the larger picture of the impact of furlough to your own businesses and contractors. And I've mentioned it a couple of times, but if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask after this, please do fire them in. We will come back to you and let you know. I think the only thing left for me to say is that we hope that everyone, again, is keeping well and safe, and try and remain as positive as possible until we get back to some sense of normality in our world. So thank you very much for your time this morning, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.